Welcome, students. This is your instructor, Sandra Hindo. We will officially be starting Lecture 3 for the course, Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt. If you're following along in the official Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt PDF or the official slide deck, please turn to slide number 69. Again, we are starting at slide 69 of Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt. Here it goes. We're officially on the measure phase deliverables. As you learned in the White Belt course, we are following the methodology known as DMAIC. DMAIC stands for defining the problem, measuring, analyzing, improving, and controlling. So in White Belt, we learned about how to define your quality issue. And now in this phase, you are measuring the quality issue. So we're on stage number 2. There are 4 reasons for measuring software processes, products, and resources. You can measure products. You can measure services. You can measure a process. And these 4 reasonings include to characterize, to evaluate, to predict, and to improve. We characterize to gain understanding of processes, products, resources, and environments, and to establish baselines for comparisons with future assessments. We evaluate to determine status with respect to plans, to assess achievement of quality goals, and to assess the impacts of technology and process improvements on products and processes. We predict so that we can plan. Measuring for prediction involves gaining understandings of relationships among processes and products and building models of these relationships so that the values we observe from some attributes can be used to predict others. We do this because we want to establish achievable goals for cost, schedule, and quality so that appropriate resources can be applied. Predictive measures are also the basis for extrapolating trends, so estimates for cost, time, and quality can be updated based on current evidence. Projections and estimates based on historical data also can help us analyze risk and make design/cost trade-offs. We measure to improve when we gather quantitative information to help us identify roadblocks, root causes, inefficiencies, and other opportunities for improving product quality or service quality. Measures also help us plan and track improvement efforts. Measures of current performance gives us baselines to compare against so that we can judge whether or not our improvement actions are working as intended and what the side effects may be. Good measures also help us communicate goals and convey reasons for improving. This helps us engage and focus the support of those who work within our processes to make them successful. Let's carefully now look at the slide to look at measure phase deliverables. We must identify the project response variable. That is your Y variable, also known as your dependent variables. If you ever took a research class, you remember how do you start all your research studies? Well, the effects of the independent variables on the dependent variable. What's the dependent variable? It's your Y variable. It is your quality problem. And it doesn't matter what your quality problem is. Long process cycle times, too long lead times, too much errors in the process, too much mistakes, too much money wasted. You and your team will determine what is going to be the quality problem for your Lean Six Sigma project. Once you do that, you collect data on your quality problem. You assess the performance standards. You analyze measurement system capability. You determine performance capability. You establish improvement goals. Moving forward. Measure baseline process performance with capability, yield, and sigma level. First step, data collection planned and executed. You need solid data collection plan. Established, that includes measurement system analysis. Data collected on identified key measures. There's also going to be process variation displayed or communicated. Process variation components displayed or communicated using suitable charts, graphs, and plots. Long-term and short-term variability accounted for. Thirdly, performance baseline and sigma calculation. Measure baseline process performance with capability, yield, and sigma level. A practical approach to improvement. To understand processes and solve problems, we must use data. To use data effectively, we must establish relevant and adequate measures, have a valid sampling plan, use techniques that provide clear answers to the questions we are posing. These are the foundations for effective data use. Criteria for assessing collected data for credible analyses. Verify data. Ensure that data has been collected according to specifications and contains no errors. Ensure data are of correct type, that is numeric or alphanumeric. Ensure data are in correct format, dates, counts, names, and tools. Examine valid ranges for the data values. Complete associated definitions to understand and interpret the data values. Each value identified in terms of entity measured, time of occurrence, time of collection, collector, and measurement tools used. Make certain that data is arithmetically correct and contain values that result from arithmetic, I don't know how to say words today, operations. Confirm the accuracy of reported data values internally and externally by contacting the data source. Criteria for assessing collected data for credible analyses. Sacredness. Values of two or more attributes are related with respect to the time of their occurrence. For example, production rates or defect and error rates of two teams computed by comparing outputs to inputs over a period of time can be misleading if the expended resources are not appropriately matched to the produced products or the measured period. Self-consistent. Values associated with accounting months must not be intermixed or confused with values that apply to calendar months. Effort expenditures must not be expressed in terms of calendar months containing differing numbers of working days. Work breakdown structure, WBS, cannot be changed from project to project. Criteria for assessing collected data for credible analyses continued. Valid. Values describing an attribute must truly describe the attribute of interest. Measurements must be well defined for the above to be true. State the rules for measurement. Understanding well-defined data. Communication. Methods used to define measures or describe values must allow others to know precisely what has been measured and what has been included in and executed from aggregated results. Every user of the data must know how the data was collected so users can interpret the results correctly. Repeatability, consistent interpretation over time and across all parts of the organization. Someone else must be able to repeat the measurements and get the same results. Traceability supports the need for contextual information to guide interpretations and analyses. Data origins must be defined in terms of time, sequence, activity, product status, environment, measurement tools used, and operator or collecting agent. Data availability and validity. Data forms the basis for analysis. Data can be gathered from recently completed projects measurement reports or from ongoing projects. Complete data must be made available before the start of analysis. Data origins must be identified in terms of time, sequence, activity, product, status, environment, measurement tools used, and collecting agent. This seems so complex right now, and I'm going through all of these slides, and when you get to the black belt, I'm going to literally hold your hand and show you how to measure your baseline data, how to enter it into Minitab statistical software, show you exactly what functions, what buttons to press. I totally simplify this so you're never intimidated. I sometimes feel like these are really great, wonderful slides. They cover the entire body of knowledge, but they also intimidate my students and they make my students believe that, especially when they're going through hundreds and hundreds of slides to earn that Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt certification, they feel so intimidated. And what I tell them, there is a formula. There are steps you follow, and you're going to get so good at the steps that you are going to get to the point where you're going to complete one project for the black belt. And then for the master black belt, you're going to complete 3 projects. And by the time you've completed 4 projects to earn, fully your master black belt accredited certification, you repeat those steps at whatever organization you currently work in, any organization you will work in the future. My goal is to help you get really good at completing a Lean Six Sigma project from beginning to end. And for that to happen, I'm going to show you every single step, every single template for you to get the job done. And it's my job as your instructor is that every project that you complete, not only are you increasing the quality of that product or service, so it's all about effectiveness, but you're also increasing efficiency. Are you reducing the COPQ, the cost of poor quality? And being able to articulate that to whether it's your boss, leadership, the CEO, and being able to put that report into a 1 or 2 page executive summary and to be able to show your findings in a PowerPoint presentation. That's my job. So although I'm going through all of these heavy texts that explain things in lots of details and lots of formulas, and it can kind of make your head spin, questioning whether you're going to ever get through the material, you are, and you're going to succeed. And I know that from experience. It's just about breaking it down into small, bite-sized, chunks or pieces. And you're going to learn and you're going to get there. And sooner or later, you're going to be like, whoa, I completed 1 project for the black belt. And then, whoa, I completed 3 projects for my master black belt. And really leaving you with the skills that you're going to need to be hands-on and to be confident that you can assemble an entire Lean Six Sigma project team and help your organization doing two things, right? Increasing quality, which is effectiveness, and reducing cost efficiency. So let me continue. Confidence and assurance in the data are required to control, stabilize, predict, and improve process performance. To assess collected data for credible analysis, use specified criteria. Data consolidation and stratification. Data obtained for project or process improvement opportunities must be aggregated and stratified to simplify further analysis. Normality checks should be performed on the set of data points representing each category. Any non-normal data that is observed must be separated from normal data for non-parametric statistical analyses. Let's now look at data collection process. Make sure that the collected data provides useful information for a project, process, and quality management. At the same time, ensure that the data collection process does not burden development and support teams. I always tell my Lean Six Sigma practitioners, especially when they start working on a project, more data is not necessarily better. You can be so focused on large data sets, and at the end, you did very, very little to identify what the quality issue is, what were the vital few X variables that were contributing to, 80%, the majority of the quality problem, and you're not successful in the improvement plan, etc. We do not want that. The data must be based on well-defined metrics and models which are used to drive improvement. 1 second. Measurements should be automated as possible, invisible, accurate, and valid. To collect data, we must establish the goal of the data collection based on the project goal. Develop a list of questions that lead to a list of required measurements and metrics. Establish data categories or use a available template. Design and test collection forms on pilot projects. Collect and validate data. Analyze data. Data elements and indicators. Identify data elements and indicators. Define data elements so that indicators show what they purport to show. Worksheet, list of required data elements. So you and your team, you're going to do what data is required and what are going to be the indicators of that data. Prompting your thinking about indicators. Cumulative staff hours, the actual versus the planned, reporting periods, units completed, months. Number of problems, number of weeks, number of unique problems, months after production release. Sample data elements and indicators. So on the left, you see the indicators, percentage comment lines, and you include the data elements required, for example, number of commented lines, number of total lines, program name, and the indicators. Analysis, diagnosis, and action. Identify the necessary actions to get your measurement process up and running. Start with the identified and defined indicators. Analyze the extent to which your organization, process, or both meets the measurement needs for the data elements. Diagnose what else the project team or organization must do to meet the measurement needs. Prepare a summary of your analysis, diagnosis, and action planning status. Analysis. What data are currently being collected that support your needs? Assess the availability and source for each data element. Organize and summarize your results. So you have your data elements, your indicators. Is the data available? The source. you can code and you can do the meaning of each of these codes. And so let me put this in a very simple to understand terms, because I think it's really complicating this for most students. Basically, your company probably already has a lot of data available to you. And if they're not already collecting the data, you and your team will be assigned some responsibility to collect the data. And you're going to include all your baseline numbers, whether you're measuring process cycle times or lead times or errors or mistakes, or whatever your quality issue is. Okay, you're going to determine that with your Lean Six Sigma team. So this data might already be available to you. Let's say you're looking at customer satisfaction surveys, or the number of claims, or how long it takes you to write up a report, whatever it is. It might be available to you, or you might have to collect the data itself. It really is that simple, and you're going to take all that baseline data in one column and you're going to enter it into Minitab statistical analyses. And more on that when we actually get to how to complete a project. I feel like sometimes they go in so much depth, so much tools, and really just got to go collect your data. Diagnosis. Does the collected data satisfy your requirements? What's missing or needs improvement? Can your existing measurement processes be used? How frequently should data be collected? What data collection procedures and recording forms be required? Will new or additional tools be required to collect or use this data? Action. Based on your analysis and diagnosis of the measurement needs in your organization and on your assessment of your current status, identify the tasks that must be accomplished to establish a defined measurement process in your organization. Action summary sheet sample. This is just a sample. No one's telling you need to use this tool. You can or you don't have to. You're going to be presented with like dozens and dozens of tools. Use the ones that are applicable for your project. You can keep your project really simple and only focus on those tools and the templates that will lead to an improvement in the quality and reduce cost. But here it goes. Planning tasks. Data elements defined. Data collection frequencies and points in the software process defined. Timelines defined for getting measurement results to databases and users. Data collection forms defined. Data collection procedures defined. Data storage, database design, and data retention responsibilities defined. Who will collect and who will assess the data identified? That is very important. You're going to be having at least one or two people that are really good at collecting the data. There has to be a plan. Okay, you're at the black belt, master black belt level. Rarely, unless your project is very small, you're not going to be the one who's doing it. You're going to need at least, at minimum, other people assisting you with those efforts, right? Even the employees themselves who are taking those actions on a day-to-day basis. Analysis processes defined. Reporting processes defined. Supporting tools identified and made available. Process guide for data definition and collection prepared. Data collection plan example. Each of these, let me use my handy dandy, let me find my laser pointer. Okay, is this one? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Y1, what does the Y variable stands for? The dependent variable. This is your quality problem. There's different aspects that are tapping into your quality problem. So quality problem aspect number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your dependent variable. This is the issue that you're tackling, that you're trying to improve. So the critical to quality, introduction to quality. How are you going to measure it? Unit of measurement, UOM, number of calls. The measurement metrics, number of calls that reached level 2, the number of DMC hits, criteria, call duration closed to 2 minutes. Present level 1, days for sampling. You're going to do the sampling. You're going to collect the data. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 4, pick up 20 agents below average in quality score. What is the sources of data? The CRM report, right? Those never lie. And MVolve, right? You can look at the call logs. I remember when I used to work in sales, the sales managers were, a full, report on every day how many minutes we were spending on our on the phone doing cold calls, right? And establishing ourselves with new clients and existing clients. So this is the same idea, but with the level 2 support, that's like a help desk. When you call into your help desk because your computer is not working, or you forgot your password, or this app is dysfunctioning, when we call into whether they call it a help desk or a service desk. So 20 agents times 15 calls per agent equals 300 calls. That's a source of data. Who is responsible for collecting data? JJ and AS. When? September 23rd, 2004. Okay, let's look at this example. This is tapping into quality issue number 2. Let's look at this very carefully. Product introduction to quality, level 2. Unit of measurement, number of calls. Number of calls that reach level 3. Ooh, that means these are much more complex issues. Number of calls that reach level 2. CRM report and MVolve. 20 agents times 15 calls per agent equals 300 calls. JJ and AS is responsible, and this is when. Objection handling capacity, number of objections, overall minus all agents. Overall all agents. Number of objections successfully handled, number of such calls resulted in a sale. Ooh, so this is a call center. Right? Because their goal is to get a sale. 20 agents times 3 calls equals 60 calls. Same people are responsible. This is the date. And then we're getting something else that's tapping into the quality problem. Effective presentation. Unit of measurement, the number of presentations. So if this is a sales call center, which I'm assuming it is at this point, not a help desk, yeah. How much the number of presentations, right? Got to give good presentations if you want to make the sale. And then these are to be determined, to be determined. And the last variable that's tapping into the quality issue is success rate in gathering DD details. And the unit of measurement is number of pages in the CRM. And these are all to be determined. And this is a really great data collection plan, a very good template to use, but you can make your template a little bit more simple. Yours might only have Y1, Y2, who's collecting the data, on what days are they collecting the data, and make sure there's no bias in that. It's not like, if you only do like Mondays and Fridays in collecting the data, well, especially like Monday mornings, well, people are just kind of tired from the weekend and people kind of have a slow start on Monday. So you want to do other days like a Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday when people are a little more energized. And maybe on Fridays people are, make more mistakes. They're ready for, they've had a long week. So you want to be careful on what days you collect the data so you have like a fair representation of what the numbers truly look like, and get people that are fully know how. So like JJ and AS in this example, they're the ones that are being held accountable to collect the data for analysis. So I like that example. We're officially on process capability. Is your process capable? In simpler words, process capability is a degree to which process output meets customer or business requirements. Definitions. Normal distribution. Let me remove my highlighter for a second because I don't want. I moved it. Normal distribution, a continuous symmetrical density function characterized by a bell-shaped curve, for example, the distribution of sampling averages. Histogram. This is going to be very nice for you to have it in your Lean Six Sigma project. Chances are you are going to have this, okay? It is a vertical display of a population distribution in terms of frequencies, a formal method of plotting a frequency distribution. Here you see that the sample size is 100, and there's a 13-cell histogram. And you can see the frequency measures are here and the intensity is depicted here. What is a process? A process is a particular method of doing something, generally involving a number of steps or operations. Process step number 1, process step number 2, process step number 10, and so on, right? You can have like 5 process steps, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this example quality level is 26,674 defects per million. And it's basically telling you here, this is the percentage that comes out defect free. So 99.73% of process step 1 comes out defective free. Same here, and then you have to take 100, subtract these numbers, and then you come up with the defects per million, which we covered in lecture number 2. No one's requiring you to do all this by hand. Minitab statistical analysis is going to help you do this, I promise. I don't even do this by hand. It would take me hours, and I'm probably just like using a manual calculator, and you're trying to calculate a total of, like, let's say the sample size is 500. You're trying to calculate the average with a calculator. Well, guess what? If you're entering manually 500 numbers to get the average, y'all know you're going to make a mistake, okay? But yield, throughput, rolled yield throughput, which we learned about in lecture number 2. This is all it is. What I tell students is, you engage in processes, you need to write a report. Well, to make that report, you need to follow a series of steps. So that's a process. You can look at a process at a macro level. You can look at a process at a micro level. But the reason why you are taking all this time to map out your process is that so all the people on your team, your Lean Six Sigma team, can figure out, what exactly is the process, what is the process steps, and it's amazing. Sometimes you can do a process mapping session with some notepads and some, a whiteboard, and map out the process with those little, square notepads, those sticky ones, like the sticky pads. And everyone's like, whoa, I didn't even know that was process step number 1. Oh, that's process step number 2. Oh, I've been doing it in a different way. And you hash it all out and you figure things out. And you figure out how well the process is doing, how it's not doing. Maybe we're repeating too many steps, or we didn't even know that Tim was responsible for step number 2. And you figure so many things out just via a couple-hour process mapping session to get everybody on board as to what the process is. It's amazing. Here he goes. Process capability. Is the process capable? Process capability is the ability to produce products or provide services that meet specifications defined by the customer's needs. In simpler words, process capability is the degree to which process output meets customer or business requirements. Before assessing processing capability, you must ensure your process is stable. An unstable process is unpredictable. If your process is stable, you can predict future performance and improve its capability. The capability of a process should be constantly measured and analyzed. Capability analysis can help you answer following questions. Is the process meeting customer specifications? How will the process perform in the future? Are improvements needed in the process? Have you sustained these improvements, or has the process regressed to its previous unimproved state? Y'all remember when I said you're going to have two columns, right? When you're in Minitab statistical analyses, which we'll get to in the Black Belt course. Yes, you are going to have two columns, my friends. You're going to have your baseline data, which is your before any improvement plan. What does the process look like at this moment? So you're going to have your pre-improvement plan numbers. Then you're going to implement the improvement plan. You're going to train your employees. You're going to clean up that process. And then boom, the second column is going to be your post-improvement plan numbers. And you're hoping to see a statistical significant reductions in whatever you're measuring, whether that was process cycle time, lead times, errors, mistakes, variability, what have you, whatever you want to call your dependent variable, whatever makes most sense for your project, right? So let's continue looking at the slide. Process capability is the capability of a process is defined as the inherent variability of a process in the absence of any undesirable special causes, the smallest variability of which the process is capable due solely to common causes. A process statistic, such as the number of defects, is plotted versus sample number or time. A central line is drawn at the average of the statistics being plotted for the time being charted. Two other lines, you got the upper and lower control limits are drawn by default. 3 standard deviations above and below the center line. Y'all remember this from lecture number 2, right? You have your beautiful bell curve, you have the line in the middle, and you have 3 standard deviations to the left. Those are your negative, -1, -2, -3, and 3 beautiful standard deviations to the right, +1, +2, +3. Who sets the upper and lower control limits? Yes, you guessed it, it's all the customer. The customer is giving you the specification limits. Make sure all of your dots, also known as your data points, are within those 2 lines, and you, my friend, are golden. Let's now look at the slide very carefully. What is a control chart? A control chart is a graphical rendition of a characteristic's performance across time in relation to its natural limits and central tendency. What is a process control chart? Any of a number of various types of graphs upon which data are plotted against specific control limits. Moving forward. Lower control limit, LCL. LCL is a horizontal line plotted on a control chart that represents the lower process limit capabilities of a process. I hope this is ringing bells right now, saying, oh, I get this. This is almost identical to the customer specifying their lower and upper limit numbers, right? What is an upper control limit? An upper control limit is a horizontal line on a control chart that represents the upper limits of process capability. And y'all, This is a control chart. This is the average, and these are the data points, data points, data point, data point, data point, data point. Let me use my highlighter. Data point here, then it falls down here, here, here. Data point here, data point here, data point here, here. And y'all want to know something? As long as the data points are between, you guessed it, the UCL line and the LC line, guess what you're going to claim as a practitioner? Your data is in control, and that is a very positive thing. I would be very scared if a dot was here, or, you know, even close to this line. That means you're going to be steering off what? The highway. Good, you remembered that from the last lecture. Here it goes. A process is in control when most of the points fall within the bounds of the control limits and the points do not display any non-random patterns. What is statistical control? Statistical control is a quantitative condition that describes a process that is free of assignable or special causes of variation. For example, variation in the central tendency or variance. Such a condition is most often seen on a control chart. What is process stability? A process is stable if it does not contain any special cause variation, only common cause variation is present. Control charts and run charts provide good illustrations of process stability or instability. This process is stable because the data appear to be distributed randomly and do not violate any of the 8 control chart tests. This process is not stable. Several of the other control charts are violated. A process must be stable before its capability is assessed or improvements are initiated. Special causes are causes arising from outside of the system that can be corrected. Examples include supplier, shift, or day of the week differences. Common cause variation, on the other hand, is variation that is inherent or a natural part of the process. A process is in control when only common causes, not special causes, affect the process output. The test for special causes will detect non-random patterns. If you like, you can change the threshold values for triggering a test failure. And I like this. Let's move to the slide now. Let's look at this. Let's look at what is a stable process. A stable process is a process that is free of assignable causes. For example, in statistical control. Let's look at this very carefully by bringing back my laser pointer. So on the left, you see process statistics / measurement. And what are they measuring? The number of defects and so on. So as you move up, the number of defects goes up, y'all. And then you have day 1, someone's collecting that data. Maybe it's Tim or Beth. And then you have day 2, people are collecting the data. Day 3, day 4, day 5, and so on. Okay, y'all? Here it goes. So on day 1, the number of defectives is at about, what would you say, 0.43, 0.428, something like that. Smack dab in the middle, okay, y'all? Don't want to do the math in my head. It would give me a headache. Day 2, the defectives kind of went up to what? A little bit above 0.45, and then look, boom, 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 it's going down. There's another data point right here. You're closer to a little above 0.4, and then it plummets, the defectives. That's pretty good. A little less than 0.3 and so on. You all get the point. Defectives, they're going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down, up, down, you know. And that's normal. You know why this is normal, y'all? Because this is not a robot doing the work. Because people are doing the work. And what is your job? You want to make sure that these little dots here, they're not doing what? They're not steering away. They're not going to the left side of the highway. Oh, to the right side. Oh no. We want to, the tighter it is, in the center, the better off you're going to be. Okay, y'all? I always get scared when things are getting closer to this line, upper control limit, and this line. You want it to be tighter, just right here. Just right here. It's always best. And y'all know how you achieve that? Training. Getting all your employees to do the same exact steps within the same time period. And having them follow the ideal standard operating procedures. Easier said than done, right? Okay. So you have the inherent process plus measurement variation. Process noise, that's a common cause. Process noise, that's a common cause. Anything that's below the lower control lines, that means if you have a dot right here, that's called process signal. That's a special cause. You must identify what is causing the special cause, and you gotta solve it, right? Why are all these little dots appearing here? But they're not. But like, let's pretend there's a dot here, dot here. Well, what are the special causes? Maybe you want to use the 5 whys. Well, why is there a number down here or down here? What's going on? Ask why 5 times and you get to the root cause so you can eliminate your special causes. Then anything above the upper control limit, same thing. What is causing this? You ask why? The 5 whys, whole 5 whys, so you get to the root cause. Yep, and that's how it works, and you're tracking it over time. Let's now look at a stable, in control, versus unstable, out of control process. Okay, here it goes. In control process, see all these little dots? Each one represents what? A data point. Y'all see how it's within the upper control limit line and the lower control limit line. As a practitioner, you want to be able to say, hey, y'all, look, my process is stable, also known as in control. But my friend, if you guys did your whole entire improvement plan, y'all did the training, and you're seeing data points that are above the upper control limit, you'll see this, there's 1 out of control, 2, 3. Everything that's out of control, that's a special cause. You must ask the 5 whys. Why is there a number above the upper control limit? And you ask why 5 times. And y'all see there's 3 data points that are below the lower control limit. Not good at all. 1, 2, 3. You're going to have to do the 5 whys. Why is there a data point there? And then you ask why again and why again. And you get to the root cause of this, the special causes. So y'all, at this point, y'all should know what do you want as a practitioner? You want common causes, not special causes. You must you guys need to nip these away very, very quickly. Figure out what's going on. Was Sarah sleepy? Was she tired? And it took her to write that report. It took her such a long time to write the report, and that's Sarah, Tom, and a few other people's results. Or someone dealing with the flu. Who knows? I'm just giving some really simple, easy examples. But whatever the root cause is, you need to identify it and you have to take care of it. So, yep, you want to be in control of your process and not out of control. Definitions continued. Capable process. A capable process is a process that meets specification limits and produces good parts. Our last slide for lecture number 3, right? Let's look at this. Again, it's on the left. Let's use my handy dandy laser. process statistics / measurement, number of defectives, and so on. Anything above this line is a special cause. Anything below this line is a special cause. This process scares me, and I'm going to explain to you why. This dot is normal. This is good. This is good. The fact that it is touching the lower control limit, you know what this means in real life? That at any second, this piece, if it's a product or if it's service, it needs to be reworked. It needs to be fixed. It might, if it's a product, it might be damaged. You might have to start it back from scratch because you're barely touching it. It's not safe. And if we come here, this one's not touching the red line, so it's still good. This one's not touching the red line, but this one is. Y'all see this one right here? It's very small. If you look at it carefully, let me now remove the laser. That's not good. You need to be careful. Okay? Not good at all. And then when I'm done, I'm going to show you guys some practical like products that are used in real life, services, and tell you what are the real implications when you have anything that's not within your customer's specification limits, both the upper and the lower. There really are serious ramifications to this. So y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed lecture number 3, and I'll see you shortly in lecture number 4. Thank you, and see you soon.